and you and I, Rick Hudo from, at the time, Rizzo, Joe Engels from GEI, and John Balco, who at the time was with me at GZA, met for coffee and beignets at the Café du Monde in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and started sketching out what a professional organization would look like, since we knew this was coming and we knew we had to have something like that.
And we wanted to plan ahead, even though the first licenses wouldn't actually be effective until '93. So it was maybe a year in advance we started thinking about it.
We did get incorporated in 1993, as you may recall,
Right.
which is why this is our 20th anniversary
Yes,
year.
indeed.
Indeed.
They must have replaced us, and then they went on to create an organization that now celebrating its 20th anniversary and has supported LSPs and educated them in the process.
It was a foundation for thousands of cleanups that have occurred to date, the brownfields program, the emergency response program, knowing that when a spill occurred, how much needed to be cleaned up and get it over with for insurers. It was highly successful. We ended up with over 500 licensed consultants who we essentially created a job market and a marketplace for these people to go into this profession and make a career out of it, and provide their services throughout the Commonwealth and keep commerce moving, keep jobs going. And it was all done on time and under budget, I'm proud to say, by a great group of people.
The LSP Association, or the LSPA, is the professional society for licensed site professionals and other environmental professionals who are charged with cleaning up hazardous waste sites in Massachusetts. LSPs are licensed by the state, and they are highly regulated in terms of their professional background, their experience, and they work very closely with a set of regulations called the Massachusetts Contingency Plan. The LSP Association has around 1,000 members. About half of those, about 500, are LSPs, and that's almost all of the LSPs that are licensed by the state right now. The other 500 members of our association are attorneys and risk assessors, contractors, lab professionals, laboratory professionals who do analytics for site work. So there are a lot of different professions that do this sort of work, and the association really is the umbrella that encompasses all of them. It's a very active, very vibrant organization. We have a board of directors. We have 7 very active committees. We work very closely with the State Department of Environmental Protection. We provide comments on regulations, on proposed regulations. We have regular meetings with the state, so that there's a lot of back and forth about what they're thinking about, what the practice, what LSPs are encountering in their actual work. That information we want to be able to share back to the state. So there's a nice give and take there. There's another arm of the program in addition to the LSPs and the State Department of Environmental Protection, and that is the LSP Board. That's the board of registration that actually licenses the LSPs that work in the state. So it's kind of a 3-armed program, this privatized program.
We started thinking about the board and who was going to be on the board that would actually review the applications and discipline LSPs once there got to be issues later on with the implementation and cleanup of sites. And as I recall, we were down in New Orleans at a ACEC HASWAC meeting, and the word came through that the governor had appointed both you and me and others to serve on the LSP board. So that was kind of the beginning of the not board yet era.
Even before the legislation was passed, we had started on what you referred to as not board yet, which was a bunch of people sitting down and thinking about what regulations for these LSPs would look like, even though there was not yet an official approval for a board to do these. But we actually came up, so when we sat down for the first time with the board as board members, we already had essentially draft regulations to work with. So we were very fortunate to have that work that went before, so we didn't have to start fresh on that.
We were particularly interested in what was going on with a licensed site professional board, because we felt that the regulations that would govern the work of the licensed site professionals, the LSPs, was very important that they were properly educated, they were well screened, they did continuing education, and that they were experienced professionals.
But we also had to figure out how we acted as LSPs. I mean, now, you know, a month ago we didn't know how to spell LSP, and now we are one.
The program is built on 3 legs, essentially. The Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, the LSP Board, which is the board that licenses LSPs, and the practice of the LSPs. And we like to think of that as the LSP Association. And the program really couldn't function successfully without each of those 3 entities.
I enjoyed serving on it very much. It was a very well-functioning board. It had representatives of different perspectives and points of view, but I think people were always willing to discuss.
All the stakeholders trust the program, have confidence in the program. Everyone that needs to be bought in is bought in, and that's one of the reasons why it's been so successful. And we have 20 years of good work to back that up.
The applicants had to fill out an application form and provide information on their background and their education. And I recall reading about 1,000 of them in the summer of 1993. It was not an easy task to get through all of them.
Yeah, first, of course, we had to develop the application
Right.
form, and we beta tested it on a bunch of people and decided that we had a form that we could send out. And then when we started getting them back, and they are very tedious forms. To this day, I can't believe how tedious they are when people complain about them in my shop, and I'm sure at your shop as well. And we'd be handed a stack of 20 of these pretty much every week.
We expected the licensed site professionals would hold paramount protection of public health and the environment in conducting their work. And there was controversy about that because people felt, some of the potential professional LSPs felt that there could be litigation on that very topic. And, but we finally prevailed because some people felt it was an aspirational goal. It wasn't something you could really enforce. And we sort of recognized that that was true, but we felt it needed to be in the regulations because we felt it set a standard of expectations for how the LSPs would conduct their work.
We had to get done because the regs were effective the beginning of October. So we had the new MCP regulations in place, and we needed to have the LSPs licensed in order to, at least they had to have their interim licenses before the regulations went into effect.
It's really a very innovative program. It was extremely innovative 20 years ago when it was created. It was the first program of its kind in the country. Other states have tried to emulate this to varying degrees of success. Every state has kind of their own particular model, but the Massachusetts program was the first, and it is really truly the most innovative and also the most successful.